Fight fans, welcome to the PBC podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome to the PBC podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
Thank you guys, as always, for joining us, and get ready for a good one. Fresh off his big win over Danny Garcia last Saturday on FOX Sports PPV, we've got Errol Spence Jr. joining us. We've also got his trainer, Derrick James, easily the trainer of the year, in my opinion. He'll be in the house as well. We're going to examine the entire FOX Sports pay-per-view card from last weekend. Plus, we're going to take a look at Saturday's PBC on Showtime card featuring Chris Colbert in the main event. We got a lot to go over, but first, some recent news: the return of Floyd Money Mayweather. The boxing legend announced his next fight, if you want to call it that, February 20th versus social media star Logan Paul. It's being called an exhibition. I don't know what that means, but Mike, I think we can both agree that it's going to make a lot of money.
Exactly. I think it's very good business. I always say that if there's enough money on the table, people will do anything. I would say this is anything. This is anything. It's a ridiculous matchup in terms of, actual boxing. It's one of the best fighters ever against a guy who barely knows what he's doing. So it's not about boxing at all. It's something that they know people will buy into just out of curiosity or because they're fans of, either guy or both guys, I suppose. And I think Jake Paul's knockout of Nate Robinson will actually help this promotion. I think some people will actually believe that Logan Paul could actually do the same thing to Mayweather that Jake did to Robinson, as laughable as that is.
One born every minute, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the bottom line is that they're both going to make a fortune, and that's what this is about.
Yeah, and look, if the people want to see it, why not? Who am I to complain? However, there has been some backlash from certain boxing fans and certain members of the media, of course. Do you think this kind of fight and these kind of exhibitions in general, do they hurt the sport? Do they help? What's your take?
I was trying to think this through, and I just honestly don't know. On one hand, you'd think that if these spectacles draw people to boxing, that could actually increase the interest in the sport. Kind of makes sense if you think about it. I've seen no evidence of that, though. On the other hand, it's not really a good commentary on boxing. Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather and YouTube personalities are attracting as much or more attention than even, most of the top active boxers. Real boxing fans obviously can differentiate between these exhibitions and the real thing, thank goodness. But I'm sure there are people out there who think, I guess this is boxing now. That's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, you're right. And there's not much you can do about those people. Look, this thing has been going on forever. Muhammad Ali had a series of exhibitions when he was active and when he wasn't. Mike Tyson done in the past. Floyd Mayweather was in the WWE. Remember when he took that 2-year break right in the smack of his prime. So I don't know if it really matters. At the end of the day, I think we both agree that it's going to do numbers. People are going to buy it. And it seems like there are, more eyeballs toward boxing. And I'm sure we're going to be talking about it some more in the coming weeks. But anyway, let's move on. It's time for us to dig into the PBC Fight of the Week. This Saturday, December 12th, it's the return of undefeated WBA interim 130-pound champion Chris Primetime Colbert. Colbert's going to be taking on the hard-hitting Jaime Arboleda in the main event of a 3-bout card that's live on Showtime beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And Mike, let's have the essentials.
Okay, actually, on paper, I like the way these guys match up. Colbert's 14-0, 5 knockouts. Arboleda is 16-1 with 13 knockouts. Obviously, Colbert's 5-0 in his last 5 with 2 KOs. Arboleda also 5-0 with 4 KOs. Colbert last fought in January. He defeated Jezreel Corrales. Arboleda last fought in February 8th. He split decision over Jason Velez. So it was a competitive fight. Colbert has a 36% knockout ratio. Arboleda 76. Colbert's fought 82 rounds in his career. Arboleda 64. Colbert's 24, Arboleda's 26. Colbert turned pro in 2015, Arboleda in 2014. They both fight from an orthodox stance. They're both kind of tall for the weight, 5'8" for Colbert, 5'9.5" for Arboleda. 71-inch reach for Colbert, 72 for Arboleda. Colbert is from Brooklyn born and still lives there. And Arboleda is from Panama, but he lives in Miami.
There are a lot of, good young fighters coming up in the game that we've seen in recent weeks and over the past year. Chris Colbert is absolutely one of them. I mean, his name doesn't get mentioned as much as the others, I think. But if you look at his opposition and how he's being moved, you quickly realize that this kid is fearless. Mike, where do you rank Chris Colbert among the top 130 pounders?
Well, I think he ranks with anyone in terms of talent. He's an excellent athlete, really well-schooled boxer. He was a tremendous amateur. Remember, he was the first to qualify for the 2016 U.S. Olympic trials, although he decided to turn pro instead of pursuing that. I think the reason that he did that was he got the impression that the U.S. officials were bent on Shakur Stevenson representing the U.S. at that weight, so he just said, screw it, and he goes, I'm turning pro. Yeah. The only thing that he's really missing as a pro are the big wins. He's beaten good fighters. I'm just waiting to see how he does against the next level opposition. I think he'll do well, but I just haven't seen it yet. So to answer your question, right now I rank him below guys like Miguel Berchelt and Leo Santa Cruz and Jamel Herring, but that could change as soon as his next fight or two.
Yeah, and not to mention Gervonta Tank Davis, who's probably the man in the division.
I keep thinking of Davis as 135. Yeah, I do not mean to diss him.
He's had only one fight at 135. I mean,
I know. For some reason, I keep thinking of him as a 35-pounder.
But there are a lot of good fighters at 130. I think I'm with you. I think Colbert needs that win that can sort of put him in the conversation with those names, which brings us to his opponent on Saturday night. Can Jaime Arboleda defeat Chris Colbert?
Yeah, I think he can. I think he's a good fighter. As I said in the essentials, he has similar physical traits to Colbert. He's tall and lean, has a long reach, just like Colbert. Quick, skillful guy, and he could punch. That's something that Colbert hasn't really demonstrated yet. I spoke to Colbert yesterday, as a matter of fact, and we talked about that a little bit. He said he's just now, getting what he thinks is his man strength. So I suspect he'll get more and more powerful. But as it is now, I think Arboleda is the biggest puncher. I mentioned that he's coming off that split decision victory over Jason Velez in February. I think it was actually a pretty good win. Velez is a solid guy, but it was a close fight. So I don't know, you make of that what you will. Bottom line, I think Arboleda is a live underdog in this fight.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a dangerous fight for Colbert. It could be the toughest fight of his career. Arboleda is one of those guys who comes forward. He's aggressive. He has power, as you said, and he wants a firefight. So, the question is, will Colbert be able to keep Arboleda off him? And that's what we're going to find out on Saturday night. But before that, we've got to make our predictions. So, Mike, who do you got?
I think Colbert's too talented for Arboleda in the end. Arboleda has skills, but I think Colbert has special skills. I think we're going to see that in the fight. Again, Colbert, in our conversation yesterday, I spoke with him. Colbert told me that he's going to try to score a knockout, which wouldn't shock me. I mean, a couple fights ago, he stopped the guy in the first round. But I think he's going to win a clear decision.
Yeah, I think that's the smart bet, and I think that the smart thing for him to attempt to do. I like Colbert to win a decision as well. I think he shows us his versatility. He's going to have to avoid the bombs and use his footwork a little more, but I also think he'll have no choice but to stand on the inside and work as well, and Colbert has that capability. He really has some impressive skills. I expect there'll be some rough moments, but he'll pull through to, cap off a good 2020 for him. Now, on the undercard, we've got what I anticipate will be some very entertaining bouts. Ronald Ellis versus Matt Korobov in middleweight action, and a big step up for undefeated prospect Richardson Hitchens in a televised opener. He's going to take on veteran former world champion Argenis Mendez in what should be a really good scrap. Further, on the other side of the pond, we've got the return of AJ. Anthony Joshua, the unified world heavyweight champion, will take on mandatory challenger Kubrat Pulev. Happy to see Joshua back in the ring, but Mike, does he pose any sort of threat to Joshua?
I think he does. I don't think he's as good as Joshua. He's not as athletic. He doesn't have the skill set. He's not as powerful in terms of his punching. At the same time, he's a solid boxer. He's roughly as big as Joshua, so Joshua's not going to have that advantage. And he might prove to be mentally tougher than Joshua. I think the jury's still out on that as far as he's concerned. Pulev's only loss was, a knockout against Vladimir Klitschko 6 years ago before we really saw signs that Klitschko was beginning to slip. Otherwise, he's handled everybody that they put in front of him. He's more of a boxer than a knockout guy, but he's a big, strong guy.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened with Alexander Povetkin and Dillian White. Anything is possible in that division. Do I think Pulev will beat Joshua? No, I don't. Do I think he has a chance? I think he does.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always that chance in boxing, and particularly in the heavyweight division. But everything's in Joshua's favor here. He's younger, he's faster, he's more powerful, he's got better skills, I think. Everything. The thing with him is that I don't know if we've seen him quite put it all together yet. What are you hoping to see from AJ on Saturday?
Well, I'll tell you what I think will be interesting to see is his demeanor. Before he fought Andy Ruiz the first time, he was sort of like a badass. His attitude was, "I'm going to kick your ass." After he was knocked out in the rematch with Ruiz, I thought he boxed like a guy who wanted to do enough to win a decision and just not get hurt, which is perfectly understandable given what happened in the first fight. I just wonder, is that going to be Joshua going forward? If it is, I suppose that might serve him. He won't be as much fun to watch, though.
Yeah.
And I still wonder whether he'll fold again when he gets into trouble. If he goes back to being a badass, let's say he does that, he might be more vulnerable, but that fighter is a lot more appealing to watch. To answer your question, I think we're going to see a fighter who is a little bit more aggressive than he was in the Ruiz rematch, but he's going to be more of a boxer from now on. I think that's going to be who he is from now on.
It's an interesting take. I mean, look, Joshua's a student of the game. He's the kind of guy who works at his craft. And so I could see what you're saying. I could see him becoming more of a boxer. And maybe when he has his opportunities, he'll take them. I think he's getting better. He's in his prime now, and I truly believe we haven't seen the best of him yet. I think his best years are ahead of him. So Saturday night, to me, is a big barometer as far as where he's at. Let's get into the predictions for this one, Mike. We'll start with you.
The one thing Joshua isn't going to lose is the power. Even a tentative version of him is going to land some big punches. He'll probably outbox Pulev and then at some point hurt him, and I think he might stop him. If he does this, what I would consider properly, he'll box, controlled aggression. He'll box, and when opportunities arise, he'll pounce. And I think he's going to land a big punch. I think he's going to hurt him. I think he's going to stop him. Joshua by 8th round KO.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, except I think it's going to be earlier than that. In fact, I think Joshua is going to make a statement on Saturday, and he's going to stop Pulev in about 3 rounds. I expect him to look terrific. Once he starts letting his power shots go, I expect that it'll be over fairly quickly after that. Now, quick update on our prediction league. I'm still up 1 at 31-5-1. Mike is 36-1. He's going to have to take a chance in order to catch up.
I know.
December. Time's running out, man.
Just to pat both of ourselves on the back. I mean, those are pretty good records, actually. We need to figure out what our winning percentage is. I'm not sure what it is, but it's pretty good.
It is. It really is, especially considering how many upsets we've seen this past year and so forth. But don't change the subject. You still got to catch up. Somehow. You're gonna have to take a risk.
I'll take risks. But you know what though? I mean, some of these fights, it's just the pick seems easy. Sometimes you can upset, but the pick seems easy. I'm waiting for that 50-50 fight where you just don't know. Right.
Well, be careful. I might pull even further ahead when that happens. I guess
I'm hoping for another Ghanaian fighter comes along. That's when I get to.
I don't think they're anymore on the schedule.
Jump ahead of you. All right.
All right. It's time to bring in this week's guest. Joining us now is the hardest working man in the game. You saw him in the corner of unified WBC IBF World Welterweight Champion Errol Spence Jr. last Saturday on Fox pay-per-view as Spence made his miraculous return to the ring with a decision win over Danny Garcia. He also trains another unified champion in Jermel Charlo, the unified 154-pound champion. In other words, this guy is the best trainer in the game, Derrick James. Derrick, first, congratulations on yet another big win. I hear you didn't come through unscathed, though. What happened exactly?
Well, it was just during training camp, man. It was so tough and rigorous. If you can remember, I went from Jermel camp to Errol's camp.
Yeah.
And just the workload and just the hard work. And I had a day that I didn't stretch out. I stretch out every day. And the day that I didn't stretch out, man, I tore a muscle. Pulled a muscle. And with that being happened, it created a hernia after that. So and I had it for like about 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, from when the first day I did it, and the next day, man, I went running. I was like, man, what the heck did I do? I could barely run. I pushed myself through, ran like 3.5 miles. I was like, man, what the heck? Then the next day I tried. I said, no, I'm not going to do it. I started, but I stopped. I said, I'm just going to chill out and cool out because I did something. I don't know what it was. I couldn't think of what it was that I did. And then I rested for like 4 or 5 more days, the rest of the week. And then I realized it was when I didn't stretch that they work in the mitts or whatever. Oh. And it felt better, but then like a couple weeks later, the hernia started coming in. You could see it like bubble up under the skin.
Wow.
I was like, man, what the heck is that? And I said, it could be a hernia. I'd never seen one before. But I was like, maybe that's what it is. And the next day, my wife called the doctor. And then I, went in. That's what he said. And I was like, well, we can get this done now, or you don't ever have to get it fixed. He said, but if you don't get it fixed, it's going to get bigger and bigger. There's going to be more. Because really what the hernia is your intestines pushing through your skin. That's why this big round bubble. I had no idea about it. He said, and so what happens is over time, more and more of your intestines will push through the skin to where it be so big, clothes will be augmented. I was like, well, no, I'm going to get this done. But I can't do it until after the fight. So, fight Saturday, I did it on Tuesday. So, today.
Wow. So. Is this something you've experienced before?
No, first time ever. First time ever, man. And I just, it wasn't really painful. Other than when I would see it, I would push it back through the skin, and I could feel it in my stomach and whatever. But yeah, man, it was. Hey, that's the cost of striving for greatness. I mean, you can't continue to have everything you want and come out exactly the way you went in and all the time. So this is just part of that price.
Sounds like you're taking it easy now. Are you going to rest for a while until you get through this thing?
Well, I can't work out. There's several things I can't do, but he told me I could go walking tomorrow, so I'm going walking tomorrow. I'm start walking because I normally jog. I'm just going to walk a little further. I can walk about 4 to 5 miles. I'll be okay. There's no incline, so I'll be okay.
Very good, very good. So before we get into the fight itself, looking back, was the camp with Errol, this last camp, was it different from the other camps? Was it pretty much business as usual aside from the health issue that you had?
I think that it was business as usual, the same way. I think that, but at the same time, I think it was maybe even more intelligent because it was like he got his weight down very early. But what I think we started out doing like 16 rounds, 15, 16 rounds, 14 rounds a day. Then we just went to like 10 or 12, and it was like basic, and really 12. And so it was like that's kind of basic, right? But I think that it was done, I think, more intelligently to where we listened to his body opposed to me pushing it and him pushing it. We listened to his body. It was how he felt.
Right.
So it's like,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, in light of the accident, did you do anything different to test his chin in sparring or to test his resilience in sparring? Or was that also sort of just business as usual, just jump into sparring and go?
Well, really, what I do on the mitts, right, and so is that I always am testing him and just checking if he's going to react to my movements, how he's going to react, whether it's a punch or me stepping to one side, stepping here, stepping. So just check, and the whatever I do is to cause a reaction in him, right? And so I'm always constantly checking him. But I've always done that, so that part has not changed. But when he sparred my like super middleweight, but at the time he was like 180 something, and it was sparring, man. He hit Errol because he rarely hits him. But he hit him with a straight right on the chin. And then, like, boom. and there was no movement. I mean, listen, all while they're sparring, I'm just like, oh my God, because you don't know how you're gonna take a guy that big, and he's trying to hit him. He's trying to hit him because he's like missing so much. They get mad, right? And so he landed the straight right hand, which was really hard. And Errol didn't flinch. He didn't move. And then he had not been having success with all the other punches he threw. So what did he do? Threw the same right hand again. And when he threw it again, like 2 seconds later, Errol blocked it. Poof. So, he's thinking on all fire. He's thinking right there.
Yeah.
Because I always say that you got hit by, it was nothing that he did. It was something that you did. So you have to be accountable for your movements, your actions. That's how I teach him to self-correct. So what he did wrong was he wasn't looking for that shot. He wasn't set for that punch. But the next time he threw it, which was seconds later, he caught the punch. So I knew right then and there, he's on it. He's ready.
Yeah. I thought I read somewhere that you said that you nearly broke into tears during the ring walk. What were you thinking during that time?
Because it was like this. It's so emotional because you think about. So see, you get to so because you realize where you are in your life at every moment you step in your life. So when you realize where you are in your life at every moment in your life, if you just think one thought, it becomes an emotional situation because people just go through life and just live their life, right? But I think that because of where I am in my life and how thankful I am for my life, how grateful I am for my life, I think of my steps. I'm a practicing Buddhist. So we walk slower. We appreciate more. Not more than anybody else, but my idea is to appreciate more. My idea is to be better, a better version of myself every day. So when you walk out to the ring and you see the ring walk, right? And you see the people, and you have thoughts like, maybe this could never happen before or anymore. Maybe, and you see how much people love you and love your guy. And it's like, man, it's crazy because he could have not been here last year. So you don't want him to be emotional, right? But I think he was getting emotional. But you want him to be appreciative, right? Because you gotta understand what these moments are in your life. And you didn't lose anybody. Because there's not a person in the world, there's not a king on the planet, right, that has never suffered adversity.
Yeah. But for you, was there ever a point in the camp maybe where you doubted that Errol could come back?
No, never, because listen to this. The first day he sparred, and after he finished, he looked great. I said, I didn't care how you looked. My feelings were, I didn't care how he looked, whether he got hit or not. I just cared about him getting hit and see how he was affected by the punches. I had the same idea everybody else had. Maybe you get hit with a shot. Because, see, I know what being concussed do to you. And being knocked out takes a year and a half or like 6 to 8 months to a year to recover from that blow, right? Yeah. And sometimes people never recover from that blow. But a punch is what I'm talking about. But his punch was cement, concrete. So that's something you may never recover from, right? But, so I'm watching the first day and I see his boxing ability. It's still there. And when we finished, I said, listen, man, I didn't care how you looked because I know the guy that you are and your work ethic. It didn't matter if you looked, man, so bad. It was like I couldn't watch. But I know the kind of guy he is and how hard he's going to work, that he would get it right or get it better or make it better because I know him. And that's what it was about. So it was never a point that I doubted him. I doubted it because I know him it could be a day that I say to him, hey man, I think we should work on this more. And the transition, you were doing this, I want to do this. And so he's like, and I would just say that, right? And so Sunday, he's like, hey, you gonna be at the gym today? I want to be at the gym. I have to find a way to find the words, show them whatever it is I got to do to get it across to them. So I'm not going to forget it in a day. I'm not going to. I mean, weeks and weeks. If I think of something that significant, I'm going to keep thinking about it until I get it across to him. So he was like, man, so okay, and that was kind of it, you know. I mean, he worked on it, but it's like, it's because it's not them, it's me. I have to take it. I have to eat it. Like I told him when he was doing something wrong, I said, it's my fault. Because I have to eat this. I have to eat that. Because it's like, you got to take it. You get, man, you do it. No, it's me. Because if I'm not telling you, if I'm not articulating, if I can't get to you, to show it to you the right way, then it's me.
Yeah. Wow.
Derrick, let's talk about the fight. Let's talk about the fight itself. How would you rate Errol's performance on a scale of 1 to 10?
Put it like this: it was better than I thought it would be. Because we practiced on something else. We practiced on doing something else, right? But what happened was, within that, I said about the transition. We practiced on boxing. And I mean, like, he boxed, but I mean, like, boxing and moving. Boxing, moving, step around, moving, you know. Like, that's what we practiced. And then it was one day he was in the gym, and he spawned these guys. He started hitting them with good shots. So they started backing up. So he had to go forward. So if you imagine in the mind, you've been told for 10 weeks
Box.
to go back, box. And see, boxing is a lot of different styles, right? But this was the boxing where we had him moving, non-stop, moving, boxing, moving, right? So, but when he hit the guys and he went backwards, he couldn't, if you heard me earlier, it was the transition to go forward, to go get him. It was more difficult because he was standing up too high and he would throw the jab and he would be too high up instead of having his knees bent. Like, knees bent with short shuffling shots get you there faster than standing up high with those big galloping shots or walking to him. So I said the transition is not good. But I said, it's my fault because we didn't work on that. We just worked on boxing.
Yeah.
And I did it how you wanted to do it. I said, but it always comes a time in training camp when I let you play with your deal. Then I said, okay, we got to do it like this. And so that was that time. And it is not like, man, you know, I said, it's my fault. It's my fault. And I was like upset with myself because I didn't look at all of the possibilities, right, that could happen. You hit Danny, he's gonna move. He's not going to come forward to you, right? So you have to be able to walk and shuffle and get to him fast, cut him off and do this. And so I was like, it's my fault. So that's really what, and that was the tempo of the fight. If you think about it, say hypothetically, if we would have kept doing like that, right, back to moving, dancing, how would we have been able to fight that fight when Danny was doing the same thing?
Yeah.
So it was just that.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, I saw a couple of times in the corner you told him to stay focused in a very strong voice. What was it that you saw that made you say that to him?
I think that the whole thing in the beginning was Danny Garcia, right? Danny Garcia is a phenomenal fighter, but he gets hit sometimes a lot, right? But it's almost like a trap because you become comfortable with hitting him. You see what I'm saying? And by becoming comfortable with hitting him, that's when he knocks you out. Because you may be hitting him, or throwing the punches at him, he may be blocked, whatever the case may be. But at the same time, he is looking for holes. and looking how can he get that left hook in or the straight right in. So I said, listen, you need to stay focused because that's when he knocks you out.
Yeah.
That's when he'll get you. See, what happens is, what Danny's greatest strength is to use what you perceive as his weakness and make it a strength. Because he catches them with the hook. When they're hitting him, he doesn't hit them when they're not hitting him. He catches them when they're hitting him. Right? And so you even have to get comfortable. You can even say, he even lets you get a little bit.
Yeah.
To get comfortable and get overzealous to get his shot in. I'm just saying that because when you think about it, that's how he gets them.
Yeah.
Never when they stand like just chilling or relaxing. Or it's when they're hitting him. So I just said, man, listen, you got to keep your focus because he's still alive.
Yeah.
And one around you, I was walking away from, and I watched the fight. Say, listen, he's still alive. Do not play with him because this is when he's very dangerous. So you have to be very focused. You got to be on your deal, man. But if not, he's going to knock you out. He's going to catch you with a shot. That's how he gets you, is that you don't expect the shot. You're so, think about it, he creates this idea of superiority and of the fact that you're going to beat him. And he just snatches away from him. And he removes the doubt that he's going to even throw a punch. And then he throws the punch.
Yeah.
And he catches. So that's how, maybe if they could see the punch, they may be able to brace for it, right? But because it's so far from the idea of that he would throw a punch and he could throw a punch, that's how he knocks him out.
Now, Errol said that he got a little bit tired or fatigued at a certain point. What do you attribute that to? Was it ring rust? Is it making the weight? Where do you think that comes from?
I think it was more of the moment, the acknowledgement of the moment. Because if you think about it, hey man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that and remember this. So we trained to box and move for 10 weeks, 11 weeks. So a week and a half, I could start coming forward a little bit. So remember I said I made the transition. That was like a week and a half, maybe a week before the fight, week and a half. So what happens is, if you train to fight one way, but you end up fighting, throwing more punches another way, because the same pressure he's putting on Danny, he's putting on himself.
Yeah.
And he did, and he did it, and he threw a lot more punches. He's more aggressive, and that pressure is a two-way street. But if he's not accustomed to it, we know Danny wasn't accustomed to it, but if he's not accustomed to it, it may affect him in an adverse situation, adverse way.
Huh. Did Garcia do anything that surprised you at all, or was that pretty much what you expected?
What surprised me was that the way he fought the fight. I thought he would have been more aggressive. I thought he would have been more, aggressive, is what I thought. So that was the surprising point about the fight. But I believe, in my heart of hearts, is that Errol hit him and he felt his power, because he said Errol punches harder than Keith Thurman, Sean Porter, stronger than those guys.
Yeah.
I think that, and then Sean Porter said, the first thing Sean Porter said in an interview he did with somebody, he said, we'll know how Danny's going to fight the fight by the first time he gets hit by Errol. That's what he said. So I'm saying that to say that when he felt the power, he had to be more calculated. That changed. Remember what Mike Tyson said. Everybody has a plan until they get hit.
Right.
I believe Errol hit him so hard, right? And this is the difference between Errol and the other guys, you got to understand. Keith Thurman those wild shots. Sean Porter very aggressive but unorthodox punches. Errol punches are pinpoint accurate. So he's hitting him in the navel, in the chest. I mean, he's hitting him with shots that he's aiming for, right? So it's different when he's punching like that, hitting you in the same spot over and over and over. Like Pete Thurman, I was watching, if I hit the hook, a wide hook on top, maybe a wide hook to the side of the face, and he's not even looking at it, so you know it's not intentional. He's just throwing a punch. Errol is looking where he's throwing every one of the punches. He's landing everywhere he's throwing the shot. So that's the difference. And how he throws a wide hook to the neck, or to the chest, or to the side of his face. But he's throwing the same shot over and over to the same spot. Or he's throwing the straight left to the body or hook, whatever shot he's throwing. But it's pinpoint accurate. And so that's the difference than somebody throwing wide shots or being more aggressive throwing different type of shots. It's a different situation.
You now have 2 unified world champions. Is there any way on God's green earth that you aren't the trainer of the year in any contest out there for 2020?
Hey, man, there's always a question. Because if you think about it, if there's a will, there's a way for you to win. There's a will, there's a way for you to lose. Think about this. So I'm going to show you something. So 2019, I have 2 world champs, Jamel Charlo, Errol Spence, and I had a Robert Brandt, who was number 1 in the world. So 3 people ranked number 1 in the world. Then, so I get Yahoo Sports and Ring Magazine. So basically, Ring Magazine says, basically, we are the true telltale of boxing. And if we give it to you, none of that stuff really matters, basically what they say. What is true. Okay, so then the next year, we go, they vote Trainer of the Year, right? And it was Rob Brandt that lost. So they said no. I still have the 2 world champs. No. Okay. The next year, Jamel Charlo gets the decision against Tony Harrison. So that eliminates me right there. But I was like the last one. It was me and somebody else. So they say no. So, okay. So then the following year, which was last year, it's me and Canelo's coach, right? But I still have, because Jamel won the world title back. Not to mention he had a knockout, then came back and knocked out Tony Harrison. Errol beat 2 Hall of Famers. Errol beat Mikey Garcia, and he beat Sean Porter. These are 2 guys who are going to the Hall of Fame. So what they did was they gave it to Canelo's trainer off of the teeny boppers, right? The Ryan Garcia and some other guy. Like, you freaking kidding me? What they're doing is not bigger than what Jamel and whatever doing, right? That's for real. That's not being funny. That's like team boppers, because who they fighting? These guys are fighting for world titles, real titles, fighting real people. Then now you got this year. And so you just never know, because how good do I have to be to get it, right? Because anybody else, Pacquiao, put like this, Freddie Roach running with 1 guy, Manny Pacquiao, 7 times. I have 2 guys. Anyway, I have 2 guys. Andre Ward training won it with 1 guy. Roger Hunter, which I love Roger Hunter, right? Robert Garcia won it with 1, maybe 2 guys. But those guys were good, but they never had the, like that Errol Spence and Jamel Charlo had.
Yeah.
Right? So, but listen, so the only way I could win it is that I have that 2 unified champions. So those 2 guys have to have 2 more titles. Listen, so how do you assess that? Because I'm being honest. The only way I can be truly considered, say, okay, we have no choice but to give to them now.
Yeah, I think they got no choice.
So, and what I mean by that is there is a will, because I had nothing to do with boxing. I was kind of just relaxing, go to a boxing tournament. Errol, father, can you help me? Can you help Errol? I said, yeah. I mean, he's like, well, I said, look at him. He keeps doing the same thing over and over again. He says, can you help him? He said, I know that. I see that. Can you help him? I said, yeah. So this thing, I was not involved in boxing. Had nothing to do with it. From that to this.
Yeah.
It was possible, because it may not be possible, but what I get is I get the accolades of having, the world knows who this, whatever it is. And if you think about this, it can't be a popularity contest because I have two very popular fighters.
Yeah.
Derrick, thanks so much for the time. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, especially after such a big win like this. Congratulations again.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you all calling me. And, hey, I'm just happy to be here, man, to be honest. So it's beautiful.
Fantastic.
We're happy you're here, and heal up, Derrick. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, guys, it's time for the week in review. Last Saturday, Cowboy Stadium, Fox Sports pay-per-view, we saw Errol Spence Jr. return from that 14-month layoff, which was precipitated by the serious car accident that he suffered in October 2019. One many felt would keep him out of the ring permanently. Instead, he returned, and he didn't take a soft touch. Danny Garcia, one of the world's best welterweights, a two-division world champion, yet Spence won decisively, a clear, unanimous decision. Mike, what were your thoughts on his performance?
I thought he looked terrific. I thought it was, I guess I would describe it as a competitive fight. It wasn't like a complete blowout, but I scored at 118-110, which is 10 rounds to 2, which I guess sort of is a blowout. It's a dominating performance. When you consider the opponent, a top proven welterweight like Garcia, his performance was particularly impressive. I thought he delivered a perfect blend of boxing and something that resembled a beatdown. He fought behind his jab, which Garcia acknowledged afterward was the key to the fight. That set up the hard, accurate combinations throughout the fight. I thought his body shots were just brutal. I think he's one of the best. I kind of forgot that he's one of the best in boxing at that.
Yeah.
If I want to be critical at all, I thought Spence took his foot off the gas at times. I think he even acknowledged that. That probably allowed Garcia to get some work done and win a few rounds, perhaps. Overall, though, I thought Spence turned in an excellent performance, especially under the circumstances, coming off the accident that you mentioned, the long layoff, and then when you consider the opponent. I thought he dominated a very good fighter in Danny Garcia. That's a good night's work.
Yeah, he looked great. I mean, the jab was excellent, as you mentioned. He was defensively responsible for the most part. He really boxed well. He knows how to box well coming forward, which is, something extremely difficult to do and something you rarely see. You could see some ring rust, but I thought he was sharp for the most part. A couple things did concern me, though. One, the fatigue. You mentioned he took his foot off his gas. He did slow down at the end, and there was a loss of focus at times, which trainer Derrick James got on him for. But other than that, I mean, who's beaten Danny Garcia like that? That was, in my opinion, the most decisive loss I've ever seen Danny take. But let's get back to Spence real quick. Did he look any different to you from the Porter fight or the Mikey Garcia fight? Did he look better? Did he look worse?
I want to throw one more thing out in regard to the first part. I love the fact that he said he gets bored by just boxing. That's my kind of fighter. I appreciate wonderful technique, great boxing, that sort of thing. But I want a guy who likes to mix it up, who wants to entertain the fans, who wants to challenge himself, and that's kind of what Spence was getting at. He probably could have just, stayed on the outside and outboxed Garcia and won easily that way, but he didn't want to do it that way, and I really appreciate that. So you asked me if he looked any different. No, not at all. I didn't see anything in terms of his ability to take a punch or in his demeanor in general. If he had any trepidation at all after the accident, and we talked about this last week, I think he worked that out in sparring. I think he proved to himself in the gym that he was the same guy that he'd always been, and he proved that to everybody else on Saturday that he's the same guy. I saw no hesitation whatsoever on his part, and from a fitness standpoint, because he trained so long and so hard, he might have been better than ever. Now you mentioned that he was a little bit fatigued, so that sort of goes against what I just said. I guess maybe that was the case, but you know what? When you train hard for 9 months like he did, that's in a way it's kind of overkill. Maybe that kind of came back to bite him a little bit, but he just looked like he was just in tremendous physical shape. I was just really impressed by that. Anyway, bottom line is the accident is just clearly behind him. I don't think that's even something we need to talk about anymore.
Yeah, I didn't see much of a difference either. The fatigue, which, we've discussed, maybe some explosiveness, but other than that, I mean, it looked like the same Errol to me. Now, what about Danny? What did you think of Danny Garcia's performance?
I thought he gave a good effort. He was Danny Garcia. He was a little bit busier than he normally is, probably, but he essentially was the same counterpuncher that he's always been. That just wasn't enough against Spence. I thought going into the fight that he didn't have the physical tools to cope with Spence all-around attack, and he just didn't. Spence threw too much at him: the jab, the combinations, the body shots. I would say that again that Danny was competitive. He had his moments, but he just didn't have enough to throw back at Spence, if you will. He always has his power, but Spence, even in that regard, Spence took his shots. I don't think he was ever hurt or anything like that.
Yeah.
So not even that could turn the tide for Danny. Again, it was a good effort. I just thought he was outgunned, and that's sort of what I expected going into the fight.
Yeah. I mean, I thought he fought well. In fact, I thought that might have been the best Danny Garcia I've seen in years. He nearly doubled his
True.
typical, punch output. He set some nice traps in there. He threw the jab more. He landed a lot of body shots, which may have helped slow Spence down. Who knows? But you said it. I mean, look, he was just beat by a better fighter. It happens. No shame in his performance. Where does Garcia go from here?
Well, there's no shame in losing to a special talent like Spence. I think Garcia remains an elite welterweight, a guy who's a viable opponent for any of the top 147 pounders. And I think he could still push almost any welterweight in spite of what we saw on Saturday. I think he comes back against a lower level contender, probably wins, and then sets his sights on a big name.
Yeah.
I like him. I'll just throw out an example. I mean, I like him against Mikey Garcia. Maybe Yordenis Ugas would be a good fight for him. Maybe a rematch with. I know he'd like a rematch with Thurman, and/or Porter. Any of these guys. He's 0-3. Danny's 0-3 in his biggest welterweight fights, which sort of made me wonder immediately after it, how many more chances he's going to get. But it's not like he's on his last legs. He's still a really good fighter. He's still dangerous. So I think if he wants him, I think he can get more opportunities.
Yeah, and Danny Garcia's had a lot of he's had his share of so-called haters over the years, maybe because of his father, plus some people who are hung up on the fact that he fought Rod Salka and overlooked the incredible, resume that he carries. Whatever the case is, I've seen some folks say, well, he's a gatekeeper now. I mean, thankfully, I think the boxing suits are a little smarter than that. I don't see them just rushing to put their guy in with Garcia. I mean, the man arguably beat Sean Porter. It's a very, very close fight. And you mentioned it. There's still some great fights out there for him. Maybe the Porter rematch. Maybe Keith Thurman, Sergey Lipinets, Josecito Lopez. I would say Jaron Ennis, but I don't even know if he's ready for Garcia.
Him and Lopez would be a good fight.
It would be a good fight. It'd be a war. I mean, it's a fan-friendly fight. I could see Garcia moving up to 154. I know it's something he's alluded to in the past. Now, there's some big guys up there, but maybe the weight suits Danny. Who knows? Lots of things he can do. Danny Garcia still has more to give as far as I'm concerned. What about Spence, Mike? I mean, he's still the top dog, and in my opinion, is making a strong case to be considered the world's best fighter. Where does he go from here?
Pretty much anywhere he wants. I'm guessing he's going to, and we've talked about this, off the podcast. I'm guessing he's going to target Manny Pacquiao for obvious reasons. Now, Pacquiao's a fellow title holder, so he wants to unify titles. That's what everybody wants. And when you fight Pacquiao, you get a lot of exposure and a lot of money, which is really what it's all about. He said, Errol said he plans to come back this summer. Maybe that's Pacquiao. We'll see. He talks about moving up in weight to fight Canelo Alvarez, and I think he's serious about that. But I'm guessing he wants to clean out the 147-pound division first. That means beating Pacquiao and Crawford to win all the titles. He also has a few mandatories coming up. Sean Porter is number one in the WBC. Kudratillo I can't even say his last name.
Abdukakarov, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, him. He's number one in the IBF. So if he wants to hold on to his welterweight titles, he'll probably have to face, one or both of those guys at some point. The bottom line is he's in a really strong position. He's the guy. He's the one that people want to fight, and that's where every fighter, strives to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's clear that he's looking at a fight with Manny Pacquiao. It's what he wants to do when he returns in the summer, I would guess. And it's the biggest fight, in a division full of big fights. Makes a lot of sense. Passing of the torch if Errol wins. It'll certainly elevate Errol's Q rating, which is pretty high already, and it'll give both guys a huge payday, bring lots of eyeballs to the sport. So I think there are plenty of positives there. Obviously, there are other names in the division. Sean Porter wants a shot. Terrence Crawford was ringside Saturday night. Keith Thurman told us on the podcast last week that he's aiming to face Spence in 2021. So there are plenty of guys. But if Errol Spence stays in the gym and continues to work at his craft, he's going to be awfully tough to beat, no matter who stands across from him.
I agree.
Yeah, let's talk about the undercard a bit, because there was some good, intriguing action there as well. Unbeaten super welterweight Sebastian Fundora, no longer a prospect. We got to call him a contender now. This guy is just a handful. He's facing Habib Ahmed of Ghana, who never stood a chance. Fundora obliterated him in 2 rounds. Mike, what did you think of Sebastian Fundora's performance?
You know what? I might be more fascinated with him than any fighter in the world. The more I see this guy, just the more I'm impressed I am. I keep thinking that someone is going to break that skinny body in half.
Yeah.
Instead, he just beats the crap out of his opponents. He just, like, as you said, he just destroyed Ahmed with those whipping punches. He obviously has crazy power. I was thinking while I'm watching that fight that Ahmed must be thinking, what the hell am I up against here? This guy is sort of inhuman. He was just overwhelmed. I don't know how Fundora will do when he faces next level opposition, but he sure has looked scary in his past few fights. I'm absolutely intrigued by where this guy's going to go.
Yeah, he's getting better and better. He's such an imposing figure already, and he's looking stronger. I mean, Ahmed was not only 6 feet tall, he used to campaign at 168 pounds.
But tiny, isn't he?
Yeah. It was man against boy in there. It's insane. And Fundora is such an offensive powerhouse. I mean, I think he still needs to work on his defense, but his offense is really overwhelming. A lot of guys, top guys, are going to struggle to get past that. Who would you like to see him face next?
You know, in spite of my praise, I still wouldn't rush him. He only has 17 fights. He's only 22 years old. I could see him stepping up in opposition just a bit, maybe against like a fringe contender. I'm going to sound a little bit like a in-house matchmaker here, but then maybe a lower top 10 guy, then maybe a top 5 guy. And if he keeps winning, I could see him fighting for a title late next year, but I think more likely early 2022. That would be my timetable for him. It's not too fast. It's not too slow. I think he'll be ready by early 2022.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, Jorge Cotto was supposed to be the opponent originally, and I still would want to see that fight. Maybe a Jesse Vargas, if Vargas is willing to do 154, or Jack Culcay. I think he needs to face that level of opposition for 1 or 2 more fights before you test him versus, the Tony Arizons and the Jared Herds of the world, the really elite guys. Now, he wasn't the only fighter on the card that had you wondering, like, man, what's next? Josesito Lopez, the ageless Josesito Lopez, 36-year-old welterweight who looks younger and younger every time I see him in the ring. Lopez dropped Francisco Santana 3 times on his way to a 10th round TKO. Mike, give us your take on the fight.
Yeah, I think training with Robert Garcia has really brought out the best of him, even at 36 years old. It's sort of like he's been reborn. I thought he looked like Josesito Lopez, solid boxer, fierce, aggressive guy. He methodically but professionally broke down a pretty good fighter in Santana and ultimately stopped him. He just grinds and grinds, but he does it in a skillful way. It's not like reckless or anything like that. Now, that's what he does even against better fighters. Remember, he gave Keith Thurman all he could handle in January of last year. I think he showed that again, that he has a lot left in the tank.
Yeah, he certainly does. And Santana took a lot of punishment. He announced his retirement just a couple days after the fight, and I think that was the right thing to do. Now, Lopez, on the other hand, doesn't look like he's anywhere near talk of hanging them up. Who might be a good opponent for him?
One quick thing about Santana. I was really happy to hear that he retired. He's 1-5 in his last 6 fights. He's 36. He's 34 years old. But I wanted to mention, what happened in that fight. That fight probably should have been stopped at least a round, maybe even 2 rounds earlier, but it wasn't. And unfortunately, Santana paid a price. I just hope the reason I wanted to mention, I just hope that his trainer and the officials in Texas, I hope they learned a lesson by watching that fight. I mean, that guy could have really been seriously hurt. It could have been a lot worse than it turned out. So I just hope that lessons were learned when something like that happens. To answer your question, I think Lopez underscored his position as a viable, legitimate opponent for any of the top guys. For example, say one of the top guys doesn't get an immediate title shot that he wants. I think Lopez would be the perfect interim opponent. A guy who fans will see as a worthy foe, and a guy who is going to always put up a good fight. And then who knows, if he pulls off an upset, then he'd be in a position to fight for a title. Wouldn't that be something for a guy his age and his what he's been through to be put in a position where he could fight for a title again?
I could definitely see that. I mean, I like a few guys for Lopez. One of them would be for a world title, but Danny Garcia, who we just spoke about. But that's a damn good fight. But he said he wants a world title shot, so I'm thinking maybe Jamal James, who has an interim WBA strap. Maybe Yordenis Ugas, who has a WBA strap. But really, in terms of styles, I like the matchup between Lopez and Jamal James. I mean, that's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing in 2021. Either way, he's absolutely earned a shot at one of the bigger names in that talent-laden division. Now, Saturday night's card opened up with featherweight action. Eduardo Ramirez versus Miguel Flores, and boy, did Ramirez look good. Dominated from the opening bell and then put Flores away with a single right hand in round 5. Mike, were you as impressed as I was?
Yes, that was a world-class shot that took out Flores, and I really liked what I saw overall. He fought like a guy who is, they mentioned it on the broadcast, he fought like a guy who was really confident, really in a groove, just looked like he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he did it. I think Flores was getting overwhelmed even before the knockout. And Flores is no slouch, remember, at least on paper. He gave Leo Santa Cruz a pretty tough fight the last time out. I think Ramirez more or less put the other featherweights on notice with that performance. I think he's one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a WBC featherweight title eliminator. What's next for Ramirez? Any ideas on who you think he should face? Should he jump into a Gary Russell fight, or is there somebody else you think might be better for him at this point?
Well, you just alluded to it. He's ranked by 2 of the 4 major sanctioning bodies, number 5 by the WBC. That's the title that Russell holds. Ramirez is obviously close to a title shot. If he doesn't get it in his next fight, I think he has to fight a top 5 guy. I think that's the position he's in. I think he's ready for that. Is he ready for Russell? Well, I'm not sure anybody's ready for Russell. Very few people are ready for Russell, at least the Russell that I've known. But listen, the idea is to get the title shots and then do what you can when you get them. I think Russell's speed and pedigree might be too much for Ramirez, but you know what? He deserves the opportunity. And after what I saw the other night, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a great matchup. That's how I sort of look at it. It's tough to go against Gary Russell, who's the longest reigning champion in boxing, but I think Ramirez is a live dog in that one, so don't sleep on him at all, guys. Anyway, all in all, a great night of action. Looking forward to more in the coming weeks. And with that, we're going to bring in our next guest. So many folks were wondering if he'd be the same again, and he proved he was with an impressive unanimous decision win over Danny Garcia last Saturday on Fox Sports pay-per-view. He is still the undefeated, unified world welterweight champion, the truth, Errol Spence Jr. Errol, how sweet did it feel to go home to your children after that win and everything you went through?
It felt good just knowing, I've been working since a little after my accident and just, working to get back right, and, it felt good, just believing in myself and not taking the tune-up fight and going straight to, a great fighter like Danny Garcia and beating him in my hometown. It was just, it's a real feeling that, felt real good.
We saw beforehand you tweeted, please buy the pay-per-view so I can buy a horse. And then on Monday, we saw you at a horse auction. Did you manage to buy anything?
Yeah. I bought a horse, a cutting horse.
Ah, cool. Now, did you always have a thing for horses, or is that something you picked up recently?
Something I just picked up recently, and just, I don't know, just I get a different peace of mind when I ride horses. So, just something that, resonated with me, and now it's a real hobby.
Oh.
That's great. I know it's been a tumultuous, difficult 14 months for you to get back in this position. You talked about how difficult it was to get yourself back in shape and all the pain that you endured. Was there ever a moment when you felt like, man, this might end my pro career as a boxer?
Definitely, especially when it happened. I was at home, and just still getting a lot of aches and stuff like that, and I was kind of skeptical of whether I'm gonna come back or not. And basically it gave me a lot of confidence once I came from the hospital and stuff. And just over the time, each day, I was, just felt, stronger and felt like I was healing. My body was healing. So, I just thought to myself, in due time, I'll be back to normal. I just, got to stay on it.
The moments where you wondered whether you'd come back, those must have been scary moments. I mean, because that's sort of who you are.
A little bit, like, just, you hear about it a lot when just not even part of just athletes, their career get cut short, especially, when they're real good. And, I never in a million years thought I'd be part of, one of those stories, the tragic stories. So, it was kind of like just nerve-wracking to me, and, I was kind of distraught for a second because I thought, I really, wasn't going to come back for like a split moment, but, just the doctors and getting out of checkups and, it gave me a lot of confidence that, I'll be back to normal soon.
Well, now you're part of one of the great comeback stories, so it's a happy story as opposed to a sad story, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So your trainer, Derrick James, said that he was near tears during the ring walk, thinking about everything that had happened and getting you back to this point. What were your emotions as you made your way to the ring?
My emotion was just, I'm back. And, man, just, I'm here. And it was kind of like, I don't know, kind of like in like third person where, I'm just, looking at myself walking down the ring entrance and stuff like that. And when I thought about it when the fight was over, like, man, I should have came out to Jay-Z. Yeah, I'm back.
It's awesome.
Man, it was, it was just great, having that ring walk and, like, man, I'm finally back. And then it make it even more better because it was at home, in front of my fans and family. So it made it an even more special moment.
Errol, let's talk about the fight. First, give us your overall impressions of Danny Garcia.
I feel like Danny's, he's a strong, technical fighter, and he's a real counter puncher. It's like you pop your head up, after throwing a punch, you're gonna catch you, or you gotta stay down low. You gotta be ready for shots to come because he can counter off, any shot you throw or any mistake you make. So you gotta be on pins and needles all the time with Danny Garcia.
Where do you rank him among all of your opponents?
I'll probably rank him probably 2.
Okay. Is Sean number 1 or?
No, I say Kilbrook number 1.
Okay.
Huh, that's interesting. Did you feel at any point during the fight that you were close to stopping him?
No. I feel like, Danny Garcia is just a real tough, hard-nosed, guy that he's gonna fight. So, and I've seen him in real tough fights because, like I said, I'm a real fan of boxing. So, I didn't have to watch any film on Danny Garcia because I watched it throughout the years. So I'm already familiar with him. So I know Danny Garcia is a guy that's really tough, got a hard-nosed chin. And he's got it, that I don't even think, has he ever had an 8 count in his pro career?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I know of either. He's got a great chin. Yeah, he's got a great chin.
Yeah, so, to stop him would have been, I didn't think, he was ever just in like super, I know I stunned him a couple times, but I knew he wasn't in just super trouble.
Right.
Anytime.
You mentioned being fatigued. What do you attribute that to? Was that just the long layoff? Was it something else? Was it rustiness?
Probably the layoff, the long layoff, and just probably. So I wasn't really nervous, so I can't say nerves. I just say long layoff.
You were in the gym for over 9 months, which is a pretty long stretch. Did that take a toll on you at all?
No, because it wasn't. I wasn't in the gym just going hard every day. Basically, burning myself out and just doing. Like I'm in training camp for 8 weeks, and just working that hard for 9 months. So, I feel like it didn't. I feel like it really helped me and kept me sharp and on point, just standing in the gym, and it helped me with keeping my weight down too.
So we have to ask, did you feel the same as you did pre-accident?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I felt a little. I thought I could have been sharper, but I did feel sharp. But I felt good in there. I felt real good in there. I feel like things was clicking.
That's what it looked like from our perspective.
Right.
But you don't think there was any lingering effects from the accident? Because what you just described could also be attributed to just being out of the ring, right?
Definitely. I think anytime you take that long out the ring,
Right.
something's gonna have to give. So.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that, I just got through it, and, happy that I had the confidence in myself and my abilities, just to even fight a guy like Danny Garcia coming off that long layoff.
Yeah. You posted that it's time for you to get a nutritionist and a strength and conditioning coach. Now you had that in the past. What made you get away from that?
I really, I don't know. I never had a nutritionist, but I did have a strength coach. I don't know. I just stopped working with him. It wasn't really any reason. Probably had me do so many push-ups one day, and I was like, man, this dude's too hardcore.
It's like, get off my
him,
back.
we used to do like 800 push-ups.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
like we used to go hard. That's why I was like so ripped up for the Chris Algieri fight. Like people like, man, we were doing like 900 push-ups. Like we was going all the time. And I was like, man, I got spar tomorrow. Like,
But you are going to go back to that though?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to that, but we're gonna limit it
Right.
a little bit.
400 push-ups instead of.
Yeah.
All right. Derrick said that he wants you back in the gym in a couple weeks. Are you committed to keeping the same regimen that you had for this fight going forward?
Yeah, because I already started like running a little bit. I've been running.
Wow.
Yeah, I ran the day after my fight, so I already been running. I went to the gym yesterday too, so I probably go to the gym like 3 times a week.
Wow.
So.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm on it.
I mean, how difficult is it to maintain that discipline? I mean, to do it year round, like every day, pretty much. It's got to be a difficult thing. Is it just like that's your lifestyle now?
Yeah, I feel like if you do things over and over and over, like repetition, it's just something that you just do. I feel like it's a lot harder when you're not going, and then you gotta go, and then you go. You haven't been doing it, but if you're doing something over and over and over, you just make it, natural, and you just do it. So, it's just something I just gotta, turn natural. And plus, it's my job. I get paid great to do it, so, I might as well just do it because, I don't have nothing else to do really, so
ride your horses. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, so might as well go to the gym for at least an hour. It's only an hour and a half out today, so nothing.
I know it's still pretty early, but looking ahead to your next fight, in your opinion, how likely is a Manny Pacquiao bout?
I don't know. I really don't know. At this time, I'm not. It's a fight I would love to have. Because, he's a future. But to me, he's a Hall of Famer right now. So he's a Hall of Famer and things like that. But I don't know. It's really up to Pacquiao. Myself, I'm not gonna stress over it. Like I said, I'm just gonna enjoy my time off and then keep working. And when it's time to get back in there, then I'll be ahead of schedule.
Now, we know Terrence Crawford was ringside at your fight. Do you ever get tired of being asked about him?
I just get tired of people asking me about him when I got a fight coming up. Like, people asking about Terrence Crawford when there's like 2 days till I fight Danny Garcia. I'm like, yo, ask me about Duke, and I feel, I just be like, I feel like you've been dismissive of, Danny Garcia.
Yeah.
Ask me about this guy when I'm fighting this guy, but when I don't have a fight coming up, I don't get tired of it. I mean, it is what it is. It comes with the territory. I mean, when you got both one of the best welterweights, same weight class, you're gonna get those questions.
Now, some would argue that he hasn't fought the same level of opposition you have, yet many consider him equal to you. Would you agree with that? Is that something that bothers you, or what's your take?
It don't bother me. The guy can fight, but as opponent wise, I mean, I feel like he hasn't faced the opponents that I face. But I mean, I guess if you're going by eyeball test, he passed the eyeball test. But I mean, as far as and the accomplishments, he's done that. But as far as opponents, I feel like I'm over him in that category.
So one fighter you said you're not interested in facing is Keith Thurman. So I wanted to pose just sort of a hypothetical question to you. If Keith were to come back and beat your Dennis Ugas impressively, or maybe he would beat Sean Porter, maybe even stop one of those guys and have good ratings, is calling you out and is calling you out and so forth, would you consider it then? Would you consider fighting him, or how about a Porter rematch?
I don't know. I mean, Porter rematch may be good. I mean, the first one was an exciting fight. I don't know if the second will go how the first one went. That'll be a great fight.
So you're not Thurman? No.
I don't know.
Sounds like you're open to anything. Ugas is another top welterweight you haven't faced. What are your thoughts on him as a fighter? Is he also a legitimate guy, potential opponent?
Yeah, I like Ugas. Ugas, he's a real fighter. He's a guy that I feel like they'll fight anybody, and he's been doing the thing. The way he's like on a win streak now. Then he lose like it's like 6 fights something. Now he's like on a win streak.
Yeah, he had a couple losses earlier in his career. Yeah.
Yeah, early in his career. Now, like he on a win streak. So he's been doing the thing, and I like him as a fighter. And I mean that could be a potential fight.
Now, another. I'm sorry. Go on.
Oh no, you go.
Another welterweight and up-and-comer is Jerome Boots Ennis. I don't know if you've been keeping your eye on him. I know you're a student of the game. He's fighting PBC on Showtime December 19th. Is he someone who's caught your eye, and what are your thoughts on him?
I like him. He can fight, man. He can fight. He's smooth. He's skilled, talented, switch hitter, and yeah, he can go.
Okay. Is he someone?
Sure.
You think you'll still be at 47?
You say what?
You think you'll still be at 47 possibly when he gets to your level, or?
Oh yeah, I mean, I should be.
Okay.
I should be. I'm waiting on Jamel to move up to 160 or something.
Yeah. Now, you sold out Cowboy Stadium on your third straight pay-per-view, and it's funny. I've heard a few notable people say that in order for black fighters to become successful, they need to play the bad guy or act out in some sort of way. Obviously, you don't do that, yet you've become a star. What do you think, has made you so popular? Is it your style? Is it that folks can relate to you? What do you think it is?
I think it's my style. I think because I'm authentic, and I don't go around just just acting like some superstar, or like people can see me. People can see me at the mall or at Walmart with Crocs on, a mustard shirt, and sweatpants, just walking through Walmart, or even walking through the mall with a more shirt and Crocs on and some sweatpants. Like, so, I mean, I think, people can just, relate to me, just see me as, yeah, I fight on TV and things like that, but, I'm just a regular down there guy. And, they can relate to that. So, I feel like, I'm more relatable, and, people just like me for being genuine.
So you don't agree with the opinion that black fighters need to behave a certain way to become a star?
No, I don't think so. Cause I mean, I feel like I'm not a villain. so
No, you're not.
I feel like I'm a star. So I mean, it's I feel like some guys that there's like super box. I mean, I feel like you say that because of Floyd too.
Yeah.
I mean, you had guys like Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, he wasn't a villain. He's just certain guys like Tommy Hearns. I feel like he wasn't a villain.
Right.
So it was a lot of guys that they were superstars that were villain, but everybody say you guys is villain because the Floyd Mayweather thing. So now everybody like, man, you gotta be a villain to really make money.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's not the case because I feel like Floyd just he was so-called villain, but he also was undefeated.
Right.
And we just beating guys. So I mean, he never lost. So I feel like that helped a lot too.
Yeah, I agree. So to wrap it all up, Errol, you're now 5 defenses into your world title reign. You said you wanted to unify. Beyond that, what else do you want to accomplish?
For me, I just I want to fight. Definitely want to fight the best fighters out there. I want to be an undefeated champion, and for me, I just I got 3 kids now, so I also want to make sure they're set up. I feel like especially with boxing, it's a tragedy when you have fighters that's fighting past their prime, and not the reason they're fighting because they want to make money, or they have to fight just to make money, and they made a lot of money and don't have nothing to show for it. So that's my main priority too, is to make sure I get out this game, on my feet, and secondly, just want to fight the best fighter out there and reign supreme over them. You know, I feel like, you know, I'm on the verge of cleaning out the division. You know, I got 3 of the original 147 guys out there. Shell, Bruce, Sean, and Danny. So, you know, I feel like it's just probably 2 or 3 more.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Sounds good. Well, you're well on your way. Errol, I want to thank you for taking the time out to do this. Again, congratulations on your big win Saturday night. Enjoy your time with your family, with your horses, and we look forward to having you come back on again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, that's going to conclude another episode. We want to thank Errol Spence Jr. and Derrick James for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe to the PBC podcast wherever you found us. As a reminder, guys, this Saturday on Showtime, PBC Boxing returns with Chris Colbert versus Jaime Arboleda in the main event. That's for Colbert's WBA interim 130-pound title. And of course, be sure to check us out next week for more boxing talk right here on the PBC podcast.